ප්‍රාදේශ සභා ඡන්ද ගැන උසාවියේ තියෙන්නේ. ඒ ගැන තීරණයක් දෙන්න එක බලමු. පළාත් සභා ඡන්ද ගැන මේ ඡන්ද ක්‍රමයේ අලුත් එක දැම්මම මේක ප්‍රතික්ෂේප වුණා. ඉතින් මෙතන ප්‍රශ්න දෙකක් තියෙනවා. එකක් තියෙන්නේ පළාත් සභා පනත සංශෝධනය. ඒක අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් පරණ ක්‍රමයේද නැත්නම් ප්‍රස් ක්‍රමයේද? ඒත් එකක් කරන්න අගමැතිතුමට පුළුවන් ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම තීරුම්කාරක සභාවපත් කරන්න.
There was a select committee chaired by the Prime Minister, and the report is here. Prime Minister's own report says, and that was in this parliament. It says, I'll just read that paragraph. Provincial Council election. The committee was in agreement to hold the election under the proportional representation system that existed prior to the enactment of Provincial Council Elections Amendment Act 17 of 2017. Your committee recommends that suitable legislation be enacted enabling the provincial council election to be conducted under the proportional representation system initially until legislation is drafted for a mixed system with the necessary delimitation as per the ratio mentioned in the local government election.
Cleared up about the additional powers. After that, we'll get a legislation for this.
All that I'm pointing out is,
no,
in this parliament itself, there was a select committee and the report says
so I accept that. So then let's decide on what are the powers we are going to, what are we going to fully enforce the 13th Amendment List 1 without police powers, and what are the powers you are giving from List 3. So let's do that and let's amend the Provincial Council Act of 1987.
තුමන්තිරමැතිතුමාගේ ප්‍රයිවට් members මෝෂන් එකට අපි සහයෝගය දෙන්න කැමතියි. මම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට කිව්වා ඒ අවශ්‍ය තුලින් දෙක ලබා ගන්න අපි ඡන්දෙත් දෙනවා කියලා.
Court has ruled that simple majority is sufficient.
I am asking you, first tell me what are the powers that we are going to give, because you yourself rejected it at the meeting. So you must tell me whether you want 13th Amendment plus or not. You didn't ask for elections. You said you are. So if you all are willing to accept that, when we call in the next month or so, we'll have a discussion. I'll bring the papers. I have no problem. So if you tell us you rejected it, but if you are willing to accept it, then we can talk about it.
Rejected the suggestion that police powers will not be implemented. That is because the Constitution has a particular scheme. We are saying implement what is in the Constitution. So hold the provincial council election, implement what is in the constitution. If there are difficulties with regard to implementation of the police powers, I understand that. We can discuss that. But without the provinces having elected representatives, it's a little distant to be discussing this. So we must, even in India, just when Your Excellency was there, again reiterated that about the provincial council elections being held. Now there was reference to 7 presidents for yourself not implementing various things. Now all of those 7 presidents wanted to implement it. They put forward proposals. Under President Premadasa, there is a Mangala Munasinghe Select Committee proposal. Under Chandrika Bandaranaike, a bill itself was brought to Parliament in 2000 August. Under President Mahinda Rajapaksa's time, as I pointed out at the last meeting, there are 3 joint statements made with India, and I'm just reading this. S.M. Krishna's statement in January 2012, where he says, the government of Sri Lanka has on many occasions conveyed to us its commitment to move towards a political settlement based on the full implementation of the 13th Amendment to the Sri Lankan Constitution and building on it so as to achieve meaningful devolution of powers. We look forward to an expeditious and constructive approach to this dialogue process. We believe that the continuation of the dialogue between the government and the TNA would pave the way for political settlement. Now this was under President Rajapaksa.
Not what President Rajapaksa said.
No, it was in Colombo.
Yeah, but
after, after, nobody contradicted this. He says after speaking to the president, he addressed the press in Colombo. And what does he say? The government of Sri Lanka has on many occasions conveyed to us. So,
we better ask the Honorable Minister.
Minister G.L. Peiris was standing next to him. He was Foreign Minister. He was standing next to him when Honorable S.M. Krishna said this at the press conference in Colombo. There are written joint statements during President Rajapaksa's. I am surprised that he is the leader of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, who specifically said full implementation of the 13th Amendment and building on it to achieve meaningful devolution 3 times in joint statements with India. Even when last November, when Your Excellency started this process in Parliament, you asked party leaders what their position was, whether they are ready. President Rajapaksa got up and said 13 plus. That is what he said in Parliament. So, Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna leader says 13 plus, but the General Secretary says something else here.
Honorable President, the whole purpose of devolution is to devolve power to whom? To the representatives of the people at the provincial council level. No, that is the basic issue. When we talk of devolution, it has meaning and substance. Only if the devolved power goes into the hands of representatives directly elected by the people of the respective provinces. To me, it does not make sense to have discussions about devolution in the absence of one single elected representative in any of the provincial councils in the country. As we speak today, Honorable President, there isn't a single elected representative in any of the 9 provincial councils in the country. Is it therefore not entirely vacuous and meaningless to talk of devolution until we constitute provincial councils consisting of elected representatives? Isn't that logically the point of departure? Isn't that where we should begin? We should hold the provincial council elections so that the people have the opportunity of being represented in those provincial councils, and those are the repositories of devolved power. But today, the president is in charge of the whole lot. There's no devolution.
It means that then we agree that what Mr. Krishna said that day should be implemented. What Foreign Minister Krishna said should be implemented fully.
President Rajapaksa also took that particular position.
Yeah, but you told me that was what Mr. Krishna said, which was President Rajapaksa this thing, that both sides agree. Then why is Mr. Dalasalapin was saying you didn't agree? He said that we are going to let it down. I was
No, but
you listen to what he said.
whatever
so
they are
you all are, you all are all confused. No, you come and say we won't come here unless more power is given. Then you come here and say no. Yeah, you change your stand from last meeting to this to the previous one.
No, we are not
and then what the leader of the party says, his presidential candidate is not in favor of. So how can you run this? When you play these games, this is what happens. එක ස්ථාවරයක ඉඳන් මේක ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නේ නැත්නම් ඒකයි මම කියන්නේ, do you want the additional powers given to provincial councils or not immediately? You just tell me that. If you don't want, say no, then we can go for elections.
We have never changed our stance on that.
Then let me give the powers to you.
No, see, I am only raising the inconsistency of positions. That is the point that I made about the SLPP General
I am
Secretary.
asking you, does the Tamil parties want to go have the provincial council without any more powers? And we had run discussions for 6 months on the basis you wanted this. Otherwise, you could have come and said no, that you all are
Our
satisfied with this.
position is provincial council
You have
elections
to
must
tell
be
me.
held.
No? You all are all confused.
We don't
I
have to
suggest
wait
you-
until we discuss. We
You
don't
all
have to
should
wait
discuss
until
it and
we-
come.
No, we don't have to wait until we discuss and find out
So,
what
okay,
powers
do you
to give
want
before
power or
holding
not?
the election.
If you don't want power,
Election
tell
must be
me. I
held.
can tell the country that you all don't want police powers or anything, you will go immediately.
It is there already.
sir,
So, okay, no, if
It's
you have the
already
election
there.
first, you don't want any more power. Okay, you can't come
No,
and
no,
ask for
sir,
more.
sir, let
Either
me-
one of the
let me
two.
explain our position.
Either you take the power, you
Sir,
get more power and go, or otherwise you have elections and forget the power. You tell me what you want.
Let me explain this one important thing. I beg to disagree with the learned professor, sir. Having the provincial council elections now would mean the amount of powers that were originally given, whatever it was, have now been denuded and taken away during the last so many years. We now do not have many of the powers which the 13th Amendment had initially. So that is why that document was given by us to your Excellency, in order to put back those which have been taken away from us, from the Provincial Council, and make it a little more stronger, and then have the election. So the question of having to have an election now and then, and to do the other matters later, would not be the correct way to do it. Strengthen the 13th Amendment, make it more a stronger body than what it is today, and then have the election. And that would really be giving more power to the provincial council.
Honorable member,
different.
you brought that forward. I agreed with you, and now it is here. Some of the subjects and functions devolved to the provincial councils are still administered under the central government. Legislation may be required to ensure that such subjects come under the purview of the provincial councils. So, is that the position or not? Tell me.
So the TNA's position, we have 10 members in parliament and I have the support of the all 3 party leaders here, that election must not be delayed any further.
Your
Election must be
position-
held, election must be held. But that does not mean that at the point of having the election, whatever the powers that are there, we must stop with that. No. Whatever that is in the constitution, what has been taken away must be given back. But you don't have to wait until that is done to hold the election.
You decide, do you want to have the cake and eat it? So in that case, don't ask
No,
for police powers or anything else.
No, it's not one or the other.
I can't.
It's not
Look,
one or
the
the other.
whole election in the south will be fought on whether to give police powers or not. And then the TNA won't win any of the south. So is that what you want? All right. So I'll tell you, you have gone back on everything that was discussed for the last 6 months. I need not have taken so much of time. I could have come immediately.
We have constantly said hold the election.
But-
we have never
but,
said not to
you
hold the
have not
elections.
said that.
No,
I
we have
mean,
constantly said.
We were
We
there
have
in
constantly
many
said.
other discussions. You have told me you want power, you tell the opposition
we
you
want-
want elections.
No, no,
So-
it's not, sir, it's not one or the other.
You can't.
No, don't, please don't make that mistake. It's not
can't.
one or the
You
other.
have told them you want
ජනාධිපතිතුමනි,
elections, you
It's not-
told us
it's
you
not
want
power or
ජනාධිපතිතුමනි,
elections.
දැන්
So you
මේ
can't.
කරුණු දැක්වීමම කියාපානවා මේ රටේ බහුතරයක් ජනතාව මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන්
මං
සැකකිරීම
අහන්නේ
සාධාරණයි
බලේ නෑ පොලිස් පත් දෙපාන
මේ අඩු ගානේ සෑහීමකට පත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක මේ සභාවෙම දැන් කියාපාන්නේ ඕකයි.
ඔබතුමා ඉන්න දැන් මෙතන මේ
ඉතින් අපිට
මං කිය
අවස්ථාවක් ගන්න දෙන්න.
මම යෝජනා කරන්නේ
ඉන්නවා තමයි.
නෑ මම යෝජනා කරන්නේ මේ ගැන තවදුරටත් කතා කරලා කියන්න මට මේක ගෙනියන්න ඕනද නැද්ද කියලා. එච්චරයි මට කියන්නේ. මෙතන මට වාද කරන්න බෑ. මෙතන එකක් කියලා තව එකක්. මේකක් කතා කරලා ඔක්කොමලා කියන්න මොකක්ද ඕනේ කියලා. මම නෙමෙයි සම්මත කරන්නේ. මං ඕනනම් නීතිය ගේන්න. එතකොට ඔක්කොම ද්‍රවිඩ පක්ෂ සිංහල පක්ෂ ඔක්කොම ඒක ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරන්න. මට කමන්නේ. මගේ යුතුයකම මං කළා ඉවරයි.
ජනාධිපතිතුමනි.
නෑ, හරි ඉතින් මේක ඕනද නැද්ද කියන්නේ.
ජනාධිපතිතුමනි
අපි එන්න ඒක අවසන් කරමුද?